Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Global Industry Spotlight. We're super pumped to be back and with our amazing guest today. My name is Daniel Crane, and I am the Program Director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And you are listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We're here to connect with you, network, talk all things business, and all things creative entrepreneurship. We are streaming live out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio, a room designed for Chicago's small business community located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. The Global Industry Spotlight today is on Mahja Sulemanjee Bortocek, founder and chief executive officer of High Haven, a social equity cannabis company. Mahja founded High Haven in 2019 after identifying innovative and necessary solutions for cannabis companies to scale while putting the consumer first. Mahja's expertise includes 5 years of cannabis experience working in the Illinois, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Ohio medical markets, spanning various roles, including Director of Marketing and Outreach and Chief Communications Officer. Notably, Mahja served as Interim Chief Communications Officer for leading multi-state operator Grassroots Cannabis up until it was acquired by Curaleaf Holdings in 2020. High Haven is positioned to open vertically integrated cannabis businesses in Michigan and Illinois and aims to build upon the company's success in those markets to share the team's operational excellence with states nationwide. Prior to joining the cannabis space, Mahja worked in healthcare business development for over 15 years and has a master's degree in public health and in business administration. Mahja's passion to help others is evident in her valiant and persistent efforts in community service. She has been awarded and held officer and board positions for several organizations. Mahja aspires to bring awareness, safe accessibility, and compassion to the cannabis industry. We are super excited to have you today. That was absolutely like an incredible bio. I'm like, all right, so let's talk about everything that that I just mentioned. So I think to get us started, it would be great to hear about High Haven, and then I think we'll kind of build up to that point. But just in terms of, what your business is right now.
Absolutely. Daniel, thank you for having me. It's always, it's humbling because the road to where we are today has been a difficult one, but a long one. And so we started in 2019. High Haven left we left my previous operator as an opportunity to really see what social equity could do in the state. Right, Illinois had such a great opportunity, and High Haven really came from a passion for the plant. Just enamored that my career is something I enjoy so much, not just to consume, but to liberate and to and really to be able to engage in the culture and bring it forward. So that's really how High Haven got brought to fruition. It was really all about trying to allow for consumption, getting the reins looser for regulation and really allow for a company to set its foot forward. And so we applied for all the licenses in 2019, had a long wait. We went through litigation,
Right.
We went through lotteries, we went through, getting approval from judges, and it was a long road. And our chances of winning those lottery was slim, but we won 5 licenses for retail.
Which is, I just want to pause for a moment. You need to talk about how hard it is to get 5 licenses.
Absolutely. I'll take it back. I mean, I'll let you know how hard it is just to even write those applications and how difficult of a process that is, what type of scrutiny and scoring system that looks like, and really how much strategy and forethinking you need to put an application together that basically outlines an entire multi-million-dollar business in every single department. And so that was challenging, but really, really rewarding. And the fact that we were able to score perfectly on our licenses was even more rewarding. So we're A+. We had done exactly what we had set out to do, and then at that time we didn't get our social equity points. There was a stipulation with some of the scoring. A lot of different things happened, and so we missed the first 3 lotteries. And at that time, our team and we were disheartened. We were it was challenging, and we thought, well, we're not going to stop. As most entrepreneurs, if you stop the fight, then you've lost. And so we kept going. My partner was confident and said, let's pursue this further, and let's look at litigation. And so we went into that process, and our internal counsel and our chief compliance officer, he's phenomenal. He's a litigative attorney and has done that work for a long time and really helped us to get to where we needed. At that time, we won the licenses, or we went through the lawsuit, and the ruling was that we had to win in the lottery. And if we won in the lottery, then we could go and have a hearing with the judge for our final approval. And that's exactly what we did. We went through that piece. And on day number 1, we won 2 licenses.
Amazing. Yeah.
Day number 3, we didn't win any, but we were really happy because we already had 2. And on day number 3, we won 3 more licenses.
So for people that don't really understand,
Yeah.
the cannabis industry or are wanting to learn more about it, tell us what a cannabis company does specifically, and what your company does in real kind of layman terms of, this is what, we're a distributor, we're this, we're,
Sure.
what it looks like.
Absolutely. So currently, High Haven is a retail operator. So we have a retail operation in Michigan. We also have a entertainment company out in Michigan where we do food and beverage. We have a bowling alley and things of that nature.
I've heard about this, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's concert
we'll talk about
venue.
that in a little bit too. I'm very fascinated. That's quite extraordinary, but keep going. Yeah.
It's fun stuff, absolutely. And then we also have an infuser license, and we're hoping that we'll also have a craft cultivation license here shortly. But what we do is we distribute cannabis to the public. We are, if you are an adult use over the age of 21, you can come to one of the High Haven stores, and what we're looking to do is give you a unique experience, a experience where when you come into the dispensary, you're not only getting top shelf products, but you are really getting an opportunity to engage with an expert in cannabis who's going to help you to say, if you're having a hard time sleeping, or hey, listen, I just want to get super baked and watch this movie, or hey, I'm having a romantic dinner with my husband and I want it to be extra special. So these folks can kind of help really curtail how you want to utilize cannabis. And that's what we're looking to do, experience and allow for consumption at some point, and allow for really the culture to thrive. I think a lot of what's happened with cannabis is because we've had to stay in the back for such a long time and hide our use of cannabis. Most people really just shied away and are in the cannabis closet, I like to call it. And as you know, really, it's something that we want to see more people hold dear. A lot of people use cannabis. They should come out with it.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because I have family members who have gone to stores and have used it for sleeping or for
Absolutely.
relaxation, and it's been a really great experience, right? You come in, here's what I'm looking for, like and being able to have a really curated experience. I think helps, and my family members, I won't mention who they are, but are older. I mean, it's older people who are like, hey, I'm open to trying this as a healthy way for me to improve sleep or aches and pains or things like that. To kind of take a step back, okay, so we got it. What a cannabis company does, what your company does. It said in your bio, as we talked off screen, that you were in healthcare. And talk about kind of the transition from healthcare into the cannabis industry, and what were the connection points you feel were good. And also, I as we talked about, I can imagine that coming from healthcare and understanding how that works and understanding doctors and the system and policy writing, that you had a lot of advantages when entering the space. So talk about those kind of two things, those two connections.
Absolutely. This pathway is not one that, now that looking back at it, right, I can really see that it was designed very well to help me with my success today as running the companies, especially in a territory where regulations are always changing and there's really no standardization in cannabis. So how do you bring some of that to cannabis? And my past life healthcare is phenomenal for that. Everything is standardized in healthcare, right? And so you really are able to bring a approach that that really helps to make things easier in cannabis. And so one thing I tell people a lot in cannabis space, on a Monday we'll come to work and we'll say we're doing things this way, and something will change, some news will come out or some policy will change, and on Tuesday we're doing it differently. And then something else will change on Tuesday, and then we go right back to doing it the way we did on Monday. And so there's a lot of pivoting in the cannabis space.
Yeah.
And in healthcare there is too, because
Mm.
people are not standardized.
Right.
They come in all different ailments and they have all different personalities. And being a healthcare worker, you really understand what it looks like to be able to pivot quickly. And it's because somebody's life is in jeopardy. Right. So you'd be able to move very quickly if you needed to be. And you also understand the importance of training and of compliance and of following the rules. Mm-hmm. And that's something that becomes really important in cannabis. We're a business of compliance. When you run cannabis companies, it is mostly compliance work and training and getting folks to do what you're asking them to do within the compliant criteria. And so that's really what healthcare brings. And the physicians do this on a regular basis. Nurses are dealing with this, and everybody from the maintenance folks at the hospitals all the way down to the chief of the hospital or the administrators. And you're looking at these folks are having meetings where they are sharing information that's critical from each department on. We used to do something called Eagle Room we called it Eagle Room, right? But we all sat around, all the department heads sat around and shared what was going on. We did this multiple times a day in healthcare. And I like to operate like that in cannabis too, because things change. What is in the morning is not what's in the afternoon, and what's in the afternoon is not what's in the evening. So check in with your folks, know what's going on, get a pulse on your business, keep track of that stuff. It's really important.
And so you transition into the cannabis space. You talk about, how healthcare and just the way the systems work help kind of give you an edge or just an understanding of how you want to work in the cannabis space. Mm-hmm. You work for some pretty major markets and companies, and then you decide, I'm going to start my own. So I think every entrepreneur has that laugh when they're like, it was so easy, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, let me do it myself. So let's hear about, okay, you're gonna start your own company. What led to that?
Well, I couldn't have done this without my partner. I definitely want to shout out to him because, he's financed our project and he's really brought one of the biggest things in cannabis is you have all these great ideas and you've got all this great policy work and you do everything. Where's the money coming from? Right? These are expensive projects. So shout out to my financial supports and my wonderful partners out there, because without them, really, this stuff does not happen. Right. And so building those relationships and having that was really important. But really, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you come into this really not knowing exactly what you're getting into. And I cannot tell entrepreneurs out there more. You think you have a good handle on it, but you just don't. And even as you're in this, right, like I still don't know what's coming my way next. And you really have to just be critical thinker and be able to move and be agile as you need to be. But yeah, those things can be really challenging. I think for me, when I decided to leave my organization, I mean, it was cush, right? I was paid well. I was in an industry where I was, feeling comfortable. I loved it. I absolutely, and the growth of that organization, I was able to see them grow from 20 some employees to 900 and some. I knew almost every employee from the bud tenders to, it was a hard thing to let go. But just like in any other decision or commitment you have to make, you have to bet on yourself. And so that's what I did. I thought, I've got this great person who's willing to financially support this, wants to come into business, wants to get into cannabis, and I've got the know-how to do this. And I've got a team of people. If I need to pick from the cream of the crop, I've got access to it. I've got a good book of business in cannabis, good book of business in healthcare, great book of business in retail, and I've got people and resources I can pull from. And that's really how I started to think of it, is that, who are the people I would want to build this with? Who are the people that I'm going to go through the rat race with? Because it is like a maze of who moved the cheese, right? Constantly. And
I like that analogy.
Yeah. So you're always ready. You always have your running shoes on. You're always ready to go. But picking those people to be part of this is probably one of the most important things I could have done.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from talking with entrepreneurs who started companies. One, it being like it wasn't quite what I expected it to be, and having that laugh of like, whew. I had this really nice, cushy 9 to 5 where I was like, and now I'm out here like barely swimming. But the importance of having a great team to be able to build something that's sustainable and impactful. When I was reading your bio, I really noticed a social equity cannabis company. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you and what your observations have been and why that is important in the cannabis space?
Absolutely. I mean, cannabis has made so much money in the world, right? Not just in our state, but in the world, and a lot of that has been built off of criminalizing cannabis.
Right.
And so I think these social equity programs are just so important because it does kind of do the wrongs, right, or do the right from the wrongs on the war on drugs. And it really is. It's important because people like me, whether they are female or whether we're people of color, it it just is much harder to be able to get access to this kind of financial support and to be able to have an opportunity to get in. So the social equity programs give people who would not have traditionally had access to this kind of capital to start organizations. They give them access to be able to understand a business that maybe they didn't. When you think about it, this is a booming industry and we're allowing diversity to join. This is the first time that's ever happened.
Right.
Most booming industries don't have a very diverse look to them. And so I'm proud to say that cannabis is changing some of that. And there have been so many people who have, and myself included, right? As a young person, cannabis was a part of my life. And I was prosecuted, ticketed, all sorts of things.
Right.
Back in the 90s, it was real rough. You could have a little dime bag on you and you were going to get a lot of trouble. You had a bowl on you, you're going to get even more trouble.
Yep.
And so, and those are the types of things that could deter a young person from following their dreams and becoming an entrepreneur, because that stuff, legal battles can bring you down.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have the financial means to post bail or get support, like it can be a rough start. And I definitely have, friends who have gone through that, and myself as well, been in those kind of situations. So you have this company, you started it yourself, you're a woman. How have you, in terms of that, just being a woman entrepreneur and existing in that space, have you found that, and shout out to Amore, Illinois Women in Cannabis, what have you found in terms of just the support or some of the challenges that you've had to deal with specifically to that?
Yeah. I mean, the support from women in this space is incredible. Like you just mentioned Amora, she's phenomenal. There are several other women in this space who have just been an incredible glue, and you're going to see more women brands come up, and you see Miss Grass, and you see some of these other groups that are coming up, and they're doing a lot of work out there. It's tough, it's tough as an entrepreneur, but as a female entrepreneur, you're having a harder time with being able to raise capital.
Yeah, it's the same. Every female entrepreneur I brought in here said the same thing.
It is. It seems like it's lack of trust or something like that. Yeah, you're not taken seriously. Really, absolutely. And maybe it's the softer tone in my voice or my pink shirt,
right,
or whatever it is. But let that not fool somebody, because there is just this passion, and there is a wherewithal and a commitment, and really a motivation that it's gender free. It doesn't matter what gender you are.
Yeah, I had a guest, Michelle Bayer, and she basically had designed a product for curly hair out of Texas. And she talked a lot about how it was like, I mean, there was tons of use cases. I mean, all the numbers were all there, like everything in terms of where this could go. And she said it was impossible to get funding. It took me, 5 years longer than it should have, especially that we already had customers. It wasn't just like a concept idea. It was like we were already selling.
Absolutely.
So, definitely, want to mention that to all the investment companies and VCs out there. They definitely need to support and take seriously, female entrepreneurs, new businesses. I mean, it's really important as we are trying to evolve the startup industry and, and ourselves culturally.
Absolutely.
So to to pivot to something that's fun and interesting, I want to hear about this bowling alley in Michigan. It was like, so there's a bowling alley that's a music venue and it's a cannabis space, and I'm like, well, this is awesome. So talk about this space.
So this is a passion project. We got into this before we won our licenses here in Illinois. We really wanted to do something different and wanted to compete in the Michigan market. Is not an easy thing to do. There are a lot of cannabis companies. Cannabis in Michigan has been around for a long time, whether it's medical or adult use, and they're saturated market. So what do you do really to be a game shaker? And if you're going to play ball and what are you going to do differently? So we had this unique opportunity to purchase this bowling alley, which had this liquor license on it, and this 42,000 square foot facility that has a venue for music and an entire bar, and I mean just such a huge, beautiful property. And bowling in Michigan, especially, is one of the it is a sought after activity.
Really?
We are very busy in the winter months, not so much summer, but definitely in the winter months.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. But so what we did is we built a dispensary on site.
Okay.
And our whole model is consumption at some point once it's approved, and they're starting to prove it in Michigan, more and more places. But really our whole concept is to, you can come to a music venue, you can go bowling, you can go hang out at the bar, you can go, purchase some cannabis, you can just enjoy the premise. There's pool tables, there's, different things for you to be able to do, and really just giving people an opportunity to experience entertainment while they're able to, purchase cannabis, consume cannabis, or, go on the other side of the property. And then there's access to, to having a drink there if you want. And so it's one of its first kinds, actually, from what we found out from the Michigan Liquor License Commission, is it is the first project of its kind in Michigan.
Okay.
And so, again, going through red tape and all of that, as an entrepreneur, the headache of trying to do something that has not been done yet certainly is a challenge. But what a fun project, and so many people, right? Our entertainment group of people who work with us there, such a wild and interesting group. And then we've got our cannabis folks here, and it's just really nice to kind of see projects like this happen. And we're hoping we can understand this model well enough and hope to replicate it.
Where is the space?
It is in Bay City, Michigan. It's
Okay.
on Washington Avenue. It's called Washington Lanes. So if you look at Michigan, it's a mitten.
Yeah.
And we're right in the harbor area of the lake there, and so on the east side.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Northeast.
that's incredible. I went to Amsterdam in my 20s. Am I still in my 20s now? A while ago, and I really enjoyed cannabis use there in terms of the cafe culture. It was just like such a nice space.
Yeah.
It was like you go in, someone's spinning records.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the rules were there, but you could only order coffee. It was just the whole experience was so like different.
Right.
It was not hyper. It was just super casual. Everyone that worked there was relaxed. It was like I even remember going to a record store and someone rolling up a joint or a spliff and like saying, hey, I'm gonna go grab some cappuccinos, let's listen to records. It was just a totally different experience than here, which was like obviously they can get a lot of trouble. And I appreciated just the culture around it, of it just being like a slow down thing, which I think all of us need. And whether that's use of cannabis or whatever helps you slow down, but it's important to have that to design these spaces where you can go bowling or listen to music or be able to relax on site. So congratulations on that space. I'm very curious to check it out. So what's next? What are some of the upcoming things that you have in store for High Haven?
Yeah, so we've got a store coming to Darien, Illinois this summer. I think we'll be open sometime mid-June. It's going to be a really interesting concept, has like a nod to speakeasy and things like that. You're just going to have to wait and come check it out.
Yeah.
But we're right on Cass Avenue, and you're going to find some really cool elements with the brand there. We really are like nodding to the culture and what Canna culture really wants, and not just from a design aesthetic, from shopping marketing, but really from the experience of it. How do you feel when you're part of the High Haven system and our family and our our ecosystem there? Like, what does it look like to get emails from us? What does it look like to have an opportunity to get involved with some of our events? What does it look like when you have a sponsorship from us, or what does it look like when we sponsor you to go to a concert? These interesting types of ways to really give loyalty to our customers, right? There's all these loyalty programs out there now, and that's great, and these people are buying into it, and likewise I do the same thing, right? I go to Ulta, I do that, I go to whatever places, and even the grocery stores. But really for us, we want to build a program for loyalty that gives a little bit of our brand loyalty back to our people too. So we've got some cool designs like that coming. We've got another store coming in Elgin, which is my hometown.
Right, we're talking about that. It's
So
fantastic.
really, really excited about that. I mean, golly, if I could go back to high school.
And tell your high school self, like, well, did you know that you're going to open up a cannabis store in your hometown?
I bet you most of the people that knew me back in high school would have said, yeah, you probably would.
Yeah, right? They're like, oh, that makes sense. This makes sense.
Yeah, but so that's pretty cool. And then actually tonight, we're going down to Normal for our third location. We're going through the zoning hearing, hoping that that'll pass, and we'll see how that goes today. But yeah, we've got a couple of stores opening here.
That's amazing.
Going to keep trying to acquire some licenses, keep trying to build the brand, and I'm helping a lot of hopefully other groups who are maybe social equity who don't have enough of the know-how, who might not have the same capital opportunity. We're here to help. So
well, and it strikes me too that especially with the community that Amor has brought here,
absolutely.
That everyone is really passionate and driven, and it's like I see it as like, oh, these are the people that should be leading the industry, and building community around it, and building partnerships, and because there's obviously a lot of also wealth to get, which is important, right? Like it's important for new generations and people to build wealth, life-changing wealth for their families, and in general to kind of maybe balance out some of the existing spaces. So I'm really excited to meet you, and I'm excited to come and check out some of the stores, and definitely this bowling alley in Michigan sounds really fascinating. So before we end today, what is something that you won't compromise on in your career?
I have had to. I will not compromise on the people that I decide to work with. I have had an opportunity to learn from some very, very successful people. And a lot of the times I picked up on what I did not want to learn from them. But some of the times I picked up exactly what I should be doing and whatnot. But, spending this type of hard work hours and this type of hard work, you got to do it with people you care about. You have to do it with people that you're willing to get yourself in front of any line of danger to help these folks out. And, it's got to be reciprocated. So I will not compromise on my team. If people don't have that same kind of grit, I like to call it, they're not part of this. They can't be. They weed themselves out.
Right.
It's hard, and entrepreneurship is hard, and then intrapreneurship is harder, right?
Yeah.
For the folks that are in it, they're like not always getting to make the calls, but they definitely are still doing some very, very, very difficult work. And so, I cannot compromise on my team.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's a great answer, and I think it's important, and something that I've noticed in a lot of the conversations that I've had as people talk about the importance of team, management, like all of that. It's just a lot. There's a lot that goes with that. I've even heard of people who, they grew their business and they were managing probably like 10 people, and they were like, what, I don't want to do this. I actually scaled back because this is what I need, and I have, so being able to figure out what works for you. Okay, so what the final question for Global Industry Spotlight. And now, recommendation, movie, book, music. It can be a song, something that inspires you for your business or personally.
And this is hard. Like you got to take really good care of yourself when you're doing the hard things, right? And so I spend a lot of time like yoga and meditation. I dance, like I do a lot of things that get me out of like a state that I need to be in to be positive and like fully functioning. So I do that a lot. Like if I start to see my energy level drop, I'll move around and just kind of get up, and it changes the state that you're in, and it gives me energy to go and do those things. And so there's this book that I found that I've read a couple of times now. And I think that anytime I share it with people, they're always like, thank you so much for sharing that book with me. I really liked it. It's called The Hard Thing About the Hard Things.
Hmm.
And it's by Ben Horowitz. And it talks about like, yeah, it's hard to start a company, but you don't even know how hard it is to do all the things that are within that. How do you talk to people you care about and building these teams and bring bad news? How do you let people go? How do you do all these really tough things as entrepreneurs that you forget, and like just there's a lot of Brene Brown work and things like that. But I think The Hard Thing About Hard Things is a pretty good book.
Yeah. And so it sounds like it kind of maps out how to just deal with new situations. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. And honestly, being true and being vulnerable and really throwing yourself out there, right? I mean, your team is going to know what you're good at, what you're not. The public will eventually know what you're good at. You're running these companies and you're running people. You're really helping to organize is what you're doing.
Right.
And so your skill set on organization, not just from how you file things, but yes, that's important too, all the way to how you communicate with
yes,
things.
Very important. I will stress it is very important to how you file things.
Share is very important. it's very, very important. We're nerds about that. Our back end, at High Haven is just phenomenal. We had the luxury of the pandemic to create just like this stellar back end company that, most of the MSOs, and no knock to them, they're great and they do some great stuff, but, they're building that stuff now. We just had an opportunity to know what those weak points were going to be for these companies as they grow and scale. And we started putting those things into place. Everything from accounting function, which, is really tough for these companies, all the way to just really file share and organizing how do teams work within a system where you have planners and, what tools are available to these folks, and then how do you monitor the level of work that everyone's doing, and how do you get feedback from all of that stuff. So we've become very, very smart from, like a techier cannabis company for a startup. So it's pretty cool.
Well, and I say it all the time that tech tools can be really a great thing for entrepreneurs to just help streamline processes. And, I'm fascinated with what, AI is going to be able to do to help people with smaller teams. It's been really interesting hearing about that. And I'm always kind of looking out to, and when I hear about something, I'll check it out and see if I feel like this is really useful, because there's a lot of things that try to kind of do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like tons of project management tools, and what are the ones that work for you, and or CRMs, or, some are really complicated, some are very user friendly. But yeah, there's a lot out there. So I can imagine even having that time though to kind of hone in on that process.
Oh, absolutely. But the truth of the matter is that tech work like that, and these certain like programs that we've developed, and like really SOP is how we like to do things, right? That helps us the organization of that helps me do the work of 10 people with 4 people.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. Right. So, if you really, again, you're right. You have to have people who can champion those tools. Don't pick up software just for the sake of software. Pick up software and then learn and champion it. Pick a person on your team who's going to champion it. They need to know the ins and outs of it. They build SOPs around it, training videos around it, so you never lose any of that intel. And then from there, you now have a program that you depend on. And that's a great partnership to have with any software company, right?
I just want to say that as someone that loves to organize things, and I have a lot of different projects I'm involved in, just hearing you talk like that, I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes, have someone own it. Standing up for procedure. It's such a essential part, because especially when you're trying to develop new business and grow, you really cannot be pulled back into some of the stuff that needs to just be able to function without you. Well, Mahja, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's really nice to meet you in person, hear about the company. Congratulations on building and creating your own career. I mean, I think that that's something that takes a lot of courage and work. And again, we have the entrepreneur smile of like, yes, a lot of work. It's been so much fun, but it's really nice to talk to someone who has a great understanding of the cannabis industry, who has had success in the cannabis industry, who is growing, and we definitely want to wish you the best of luck in your growth and future endeavors in life. So.
Daniel, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And everything 2112 does here is just, a great hub. And thank you for supporting small businesses. It's really helpful.
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Daniel Crane. I'm the program director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And this has been another Global Industry Spotlight. We want to thank our guest, Mahja, founder and chief executive officer of High Haven, for joining us today. And we want to thank Comcast Business and Shore for providing the tools necessary to make our programming possible. Please visit cceglobal.org check out what we're doing, like us on Instagram, send us a message if there's something you're interested in. We'd like to hear from you. Hoping everyone has a great 420, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.